Well, one government agency is causing an issue, the IRS. And I'm not talking about your income tax. I'm talking about the IRS knocking out of the running possible political organizations for tax exemptions. People applying for that exemption, forming a new organization, and also those already in existence. My guest now is from Tax Watch. Adam D'Angeli. He's here to explain his dim view of the IRS's attempt to put up roadblocks to social welfare groups getting involved in these elections. Thanks for joining me on this.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I guess what people want to know is, why is the IRS so involved in this and not more of the Federal Elections Commission?
Well, the IRS has jurisdiction over taxation, and these groups are nonprofit organizations. So their concern is that if these groups are doing something that's electioneering to a degree that they're not permitted to do, then they could lose their nonprofit status. So that's where the IRS has jurisdiction over this. Now, the real question, though, is what exactly is electioneering? And here's where the IRS is actually trying to change the definition from what Congress and the Supreme Court have defined it to mean, which is if I say vote for so-and-so, that's electioneering. But if I say so-and-so voted for, a bank bailout or what have you, that's considered...
What does this do to your right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and as a nonprofit, you're limited in what you can do. So if the IRS has any mention of a candidate, automatically it's considered electioneering. That means groups are suddenly limited very much in being able to even discuss the political issues. And if these organizations aren't talking about the issues, that leaves in the political space just the candidates, the PACs, and of course the political parties.
Well, one of the things here is that, under the IRS's definitions of social welfare organizations, the 501c4s, right now anyway, are getting away with a lot for funding political ads, attack ads, under the guise of being social welfare, not actually providing anything other than these attack ads. 501c3s, such as the NAACP and as yours, are being scrutinized heavily by the IRS. Tell me about this scandal.
Well, what the IRS is trying to do now is they're trying to actually, originally when they proposed this, they were saying, let's just target the social welfare groups. Now they're saying, we might want to apply this definition across the board to all nonprofits. So labor unions, charities, educational institutions, everybody. So these organizations are allowed to talk about policy. They're allowed to talk about the merits of issues, but they are absolutely prohibited from electioneering. So if the IRS says that even mentioning a candidate or what their voting record is considered electioneering, they could not only just lose their nonprofit status by talking about the issues and by advocating for the issues, they could even just lose it inadvertently, because according to the IRS, they say that any election, whether it's a special election, a local election, and even what they say a proposed candidate, that all would be considered electioneering. So every group would now need to literally police their website to make sure nobody mentioned on any page anywhere is running for any office anywhere. And under that risk of losing their nonprofit status, if the IRS was to actually implement this rule as they are attempting to do right now.
How do you feel that the Citizens United case contributed to this? I mean, to be fair, the comments at the IRS portal on this rivaled comments on the Keystone XL pipeline, greenhouse gas emissions, and standards use of mobile wireless devices on planes. This is stuff that got a lot of coverage. The number of online comments for this was off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
How did Citizens United bring this into focus? Do you feel a bit thrown under the bus?
Well, the issue with Citizens United is it's kind of muddied the waters a bit. Well, a lot of groups that oppose Citizens United, like the American Civil Liberties Union, opposes this IRS rule. And the difference is the Citizens United case was about the question of whether or not corporations are allowed to participate in elections. Are they allowed to electioneer?
But you can also form a social welfare group to stage, as we've seen, attack ads. You've got to maneuver a bit, but it's still bringing up 501c3s and 501c4s as possible electioneering.
Well, but the question is, what exactly is electioneering? If I say so-and-so voted for such and such, people will consider that an attack ad maybe based upon what the public perception of the issue is. But the fact is, all I've done is talked about what that issue is.
But you could get away with a lot more before Citizens United, would you say that?
Well, after Citizens United, these key four organizations weren't affected directly by Citizens United. These were for-profit companies who are now allowed to participate in elections, subject to federal election code. But, for example, there's only really actually one famous bad actor among the C4s, and that's the Crossroads group, Karl Rove's group.
Well, but
the IRS has subjected them to extensive scrutiny, and they've allowed them to do what they're doing. So if they're actually breaking the law, or they're actually electioneering as some people claim they are, then the question is, why is the IRS actually given all the discussions they had with them, still permitted them to go forward doing what they're doing.
Well, not only that, these guys don't care about tax exemption. They want the right to do what they're doing, and why isn't that more under the jurisdiction of the Federal Elections Commission?
Well, and more importantly, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of these nonprofit organizations, and they're not contributing millions of dollars in attack ads in elections. They're the groups that are actually talking about the issues, who are advocating for these issues. So if you take them away from the political space, what you're left with is the candidates, the PACs, the parties, the campaigns. These are the people who traditionally don't talk about the issues. So what we lose out on if we don't have these organizations talking about policy is just that much less discussion. And the courts have always suggested that we want to have more discussion in this country. That's better for us to have that.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people and politicians give lip service to that, but do they really support that? And it's people like you who want to get your message forward. But what's your idea for a plan forward for this?
Well, what has to happen is that Congress has to actually make permanent the Supreme Court case in Buckley, where they actually defined what electioneering means, and that was to say that it means express advocacy. It means if I say vote for so-and-so, that's electioneering. That's a bright line test, and that's what it's been for many years. Congress has actually temporarily prevented the IRS from passing this rule. They defunded it in the last budget bill, but that expires at the end of this September. So the IRS has said they want to move forward with this. They say they plan to move forward with this, and after September, there's nothing stopping them. So all we're saying is Congress should put into their next budget bill a permanent prohibition on them passing this rule, and just simply say things are just fine, just the way they are. It's the way it's been for the last several decades, and that's an important part of our society, that we have these groups that are able to talk about these issues.
Yeah, right around election time. Yeah, we'll be watching this closely because it's obviously affecting the elections and moving forward just politically, people getting their message out there, but also being tangled up with organizations being formed exclusively to attack, and that, of course, throws legitimate welfare organizations under the bus, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for your time here. Adam D'Angeli, the project director of Tax Watch.
Thank you.